The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stood as a testament to thousands of years of interstellar diplomacy. Its circular chamber, carved from a single asteroid and polished to mirror perfection, reflected the light of a dozen different suns streaming through its crystalline dome. Around the vast table sat representatives of the most powerful civilizations in the known galaxy. The militaristic Hexans, with their chitinous exoskeletons gleaming under the artificial lights, the ethereal voidlings, whose gaseous forms shimmered in their containment suits, the proud Dracanian Empire delegates, with their scaled hides bearing ancient battle scars, and the cybernetic Nexus Collective, their mechanical components whirring softly as they processed information at superhuman speeds. At the head of the table, where one might expect to see the most honored position, sat the Archon of the Zenithar hegemony, their four arms gracefully manipulating holographic displays as they reviewed the day's agenda. The Archon species had long held the position of mediator among the galactic powers, their natural telepathic abilities making them ideal for detecting deception and facilitating negotiations. But there was something peculiar about this gathering, something that had persisted for over 3 centuries without explanation to any newcomers, a single empty seat at the table. Not just any seat, but one that was clearly maintained, polished, and treated with the same reverence as all the others. A small placard in front of it bore a simple inscription, "Reserved, Sol System Representative." Counselor Vex of the Hexan Empire, his mandibles clicking with impatience, gestured toward the empty chair with one of his razor-sharp limbs. "Once again, we convene without the humans. Can someone explain to me why we continue this farce? They haven't attended a single council meeting since first contact, yet we maintain this ceremonial gesture." The Dracanian representative, a massive creature whose mere presence seemed to lower the temperature of the room, rumbled deep in his throat. Because Vex, the last time anyone dared to assume the humans didn't care about galactic affairs, the Meridian sector learned otherwise. A collective shudder passed through the chamber. Even mentioning the Meridian sector incident could still silence a room decades later. But surely, pressed the voidling delegate, their voice emanating from speakers built into their environmental suit. After all this time, we could simply what? The Archon's mental voice touched every mind in the room, simultaneously carrying with it a weight of centuries. Remove the chair. Forget the lesson the humans taught us all. The newest member of the council, representing the recently spacefaring Aquatic Federation, raised a tentative appendage. "Forgive my ignorance, but I've only heard fragments of these lessons. My species has had no direct contact with humans. What exactly?" Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights bathed the chamber in pulsing red, and the Archon's 4 hands moved with practiced precision across their control surfaces. "What's happening?" demanded Counselor Vex, his warrior instincts immediately activated. The Archon's face, or what passed for one in their species, darkened as information flowed through their neural implants. "It appears the Zaraki hegemony has violated the Neutral Zone Treaty. They've invaded the Tau Ceti system." A moment of stunned silence followed. The Tau Ceti system was technically unclaimed territory, but everyone knew it bordered directly on human space. More importantly, it contained the only known deposits of quantum crystalline structures in the galaxy, materials essential for faster-than-light communication. "The fools," breathed the Dracanian. "Don't they know the humans have claimed Tau Ceti as a buffer zone?" "Claimed?" The Aquatic Federation delegate looked confused. "But they're not council members. They have no legal standing to Yichidomet." "Legal standing?" The voidling's voice carried what might have been amusement. "You still think in such terms. The humans don't recognize our authority. Never have." Counselor Vex stood abruptly, his exoskeleton reflecting the emergency lighting as he began pacing. "This is exactly what I've been warning about for decades. The humans are a destabilizing force. They refuse to join our coalition, they won't abide by our treaties, and now their mere existence threatens galactic peace. The Archon received another burst of information and winced visibly. The Zoraki have established 3 forward bases in the outer planets of Tau Ceti. They're mobilizing a full invasion fleet. Preliminary reports suggest they intend to mine the quantum crystals regardless of any claims. Then we have a clear path forward, declared Vex, his mandibles snapping with decisiveness. The Zoraki have violated multiple accords. We can't allow them to destabilize the region. I propose immediate military intervention. And what of the humans? Asked the Dracanian softly. What of them? They're not council members. This doesn't concern them. The chamber fell silent again. Even the newer delegates seemed to sense that something significant was being left unsaid. It was the Nexus Collective representative who finally broke the silence, their synthetic voice carrying harmonic undertones that suggested deep computational analysis. Probability calculations indicate a 94.7% chance of Gulman. Intervention within standard rotations. Recommend extreme caution. Humans. The word left Vex's mandibles like a curse. One pre-spaceflight species that somehow developed interstellar travel centuries later than they should have been able to. What could they possibly do against the combined might of the Zoraki fleet? No one answered immediately. Finally, the Archon spoke again, their mental voice heavy with memory. Perhaps it's time our newest council member heard the story. Let them understand why that chair remains empty and why the humans have never been challenged since the Meridian Sector incident. The Aquatic Federation delegate leaned forward with interest, eager to understand the context they'd been missing. 15 years ago, the Archon began. The Corvani Confederacy was the dominant military power in this sector. Their technology was superior to anything we'd seen, their tactics were flawless, and their expansion had been methodical and overwhelming for over a century. They had successfully conquered 17 star systems without facing any real resistance. The Dracanian nodded slowly. The Corvani were absolute in their control. They followed the classical patterns of warfare. Establish orbital supremacy, deploy. Overwhelming force, accept surrender. Integrate populations. It worked without exception. Until they reached the Kepler system, continued the Archon. Officially unclaimed space, but the humans had established mining operations on several asteroids. The Corvani sent a standard diplomatic ultimatum: cease all operations and withdraw or face military action. The human response, added the Voidling, was unique. The Nexus Collective shifted slightly, their mechanical components humming. No recorded response was given to the ultimatum. Exactly, said the Archon. Complete radio silence. So the Corvani proceeded with standard protocol. They arrived with a fleet of 50 ships, more than sufficient to deal with a few mining platforms. Vex's mandibles clicked impatiently. And surely 50 Corvani vessels could handle whatever ramshackle defenses the humans had managed to cobble together. You would think so. The Dracanian's voice carried dark amusement. The Corvani found exactly what they expected: mining platforms, a few transport ships, maybe 1,000 human workers total. No defensive installations, no visible weapons, no fleet. The Corvani Admiral Thyrek, was his name, demanded immediate evacuation. Again, no response. So he ordered his ships to target the largest mining platform as a demonstration of force. One shot, minimal casualties, just enough to prove they were serious. The Aquatic Federation delegate hung on every word. What happened? The moment the Corvani fired, the Archon's mental voice dropped to barely a whisper. Everything changed. The abandoned asteroids suddenly came alive. What had appeared to be natural rock formations revealed themselves as camouflaged weapons platforms. Mining ships transformed into assault vessels. Cargo containers opened to release swarms of fighters. But that's impossible, protested Vex. Our intelligence networks had been monitoring the system for months. We would have detected any major military presence. We would have detected conventional military presence, corrected the Voidling. The humans had spent months, possibly years, moving equipment piece by piece, disguising weapons as mining equipment, hiding entire squadrons inside hollowed-out asteroids. Every single cargo shipment had been a Trojan horse. The Nexus Collective added with mechanical precision. Analysis indicates the humans had converted the entire asteroid belt into an interconnected weapons system. Combat effectiveness multiplied exponentially through environmental integration. Within hours, the Archon continued. The situation was completely reversed. The Corvani fleet, thinking they were hunting miners, found themselves trapped in an asteroid field that had become a massive weapons complex. Human ships that looked like barely functional cargo haulers revealed hidden weapon systems that could penetrate Corvani shields. Vex was no longer pacing. He stood perfectly still, his exoskeleton having shifted to a darker, more defensive coloration. Surely the Corvani could have withdrawn. They tried, said the Dracanian grimly. The humans let them try. Then they discovered that some of the mining equipment the humans had been placing for months included gravity well generators. The entire system had become a trap. FTL was impossible. The battle lasted 3 days, the Voidling added. Not because the Corvani were winning, but because the humans seemed to be experimenting. Experimenting. The aquatic delegate's voice rose in pitch. The Nexus Collective provided clinical details. Combat patterns suggest humans were testing various tactical approaches: conventional engagement, electronic warfare, psychological operations, even biological weapons specifically designed for Corvani physiology. Each approach was applied methodically to different portions of the Corvani fleet. By the end, the Archon said, their mental voice heavy with the weight of memory. The Corvani fleet had been completely neutralized. Not destroyed, the humans could have done that on the first day. Neutralized. Every ship was intact, but powerless. Every weapon was functional, but unable to fire. Every crew member was alive, but completely helpless. Vex's mandibles had stopped clicking entirely. What did the humans want? What was their demand? Nothing, replied all 5 council members simultaneously. Nothing. The aquatic delegate looked confused. They defeated the most powerful military force in the sector and demanded nothing. The humans simply transmitted a single message, the Archon explained. It was sent to every Corvani ship, individually, personally addressed to each crew member. The message was identical. This time, you may leave. This time, Vex's voice had lost all its earlier confidence. This time, confirmed the Dracanian, as though they were issuing a warning about next time. The chamber fell into contemplative silence. Finally, the aquatic delegate spoke up. And this is why the seat remains empty, because the humans proved they could defeat the Corvani. The Voidling made a sound that might have been laughter. Oh, my aquatic friend, that was just the beginning. The Archon nodded. Within a week, every intelligence agency in the galaxy was desperately trying to gather information about human capabilities. What they found was unsettling. How so? Pressed the newest member. The humans? Explained the Nexus Collective, do not follow standard patterns of military development, where most species progress from planetary to interplanetary to interstellar capabilities in predictable stages. Humans appear to have developed technologies in random order. They had interstellar travel, added the Dracanian, but were still using chemical propulsion for local transport. They had mastered quantum communication, but were still using primitive projectile weapons. It was as though they had developed their technologies by accident, without following any logical progression. Vex had begun pacing again, his movements more agitated than before. Technical inconsistencies aside, surely we could predict their behavior patterns. Every species has military doctrines, strategic preferences, logical limitations. That, said the Archon with something approaching sympathy, is what makes humans so dangerous. They don't have military doctrines in any conventional sense. They respond to each situation as though encountering it for the first time. The aquatic delegates' confusion was evident, but surely that makes them less effective. Doctrine exists for a reason. Proven strategies, tested tactics. Consider the Yorvan incident, interrupted the Voidling. 3 years after the Corvani defeat, the Yorvan Republic made the mistake of attacking a human research station in the Trappist system. The Yorvan Republic, the Nexus Collective provided context, was known for their highly advanced shield technology. Their defensive systems had never been penetrated by any known weapon. The humans, continued the Archon, responded by bombarding the Yorvan fleet with ancient nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons. Vex's mandibles snapped in surprise. Those are millennia out of date. Primitive atomic fission couldn't possibly penetrate Yorvan shields. That's what the Yavorans thought, agreed the Dracanian. Right up until they discovered the humans had attached micro-FTL drives to each warhead. The nuclear devices materialized inside the Yorvan shields. The aquatic delegates' tentacles writhed with nervous energy. Inside the shields, the humans had discovered that Yorvan shields were designed to repel energy and projectiles approaching at sublight speeds. The shields simply weren't programmed to detect or stop anything materializing from hyperspace within the protected area. It was such an inefficient and expensive method that no sane military strategist would have considered it. But humans, the Voidling added with something like admiration, are not sane by anyone's standards. The Nexus Collective provided another data point. Subsequent analysis of human military engagements reveals a pattern of tactical decisions that appear random to outside observers, but are devastatingly effective against specific opponent weaknesses. It's worse than that, Vex said quietly. I've been studying their patterns for years. The humans don't just exploit weaknesses, they create them. During the Gorlan border war, they convinced 2 enemy factions to attack each other by broadcasting contradictory messages on different frequencies, each faction believing the other had betrayed them. The Zathari siege added the Dracanian, where humans ended a year-long stalemate by convincing the defenders that the attacking fleet was actually humanitarian aid from neighboring systems. They dressed their soldiers as relief workers and waltzed through the front lines. The Archon's mental emanations carried a mixture of awe and wariness. Every time we think we understand their methods, they do something completely different. During the Helios system conflict, they defeated an enemy stronghold by terraforming the entire planet in 3 days. Not conquering it, terraforming it. They altered the atmospheric composition so drastically that the enemy couldn't survive on their own planet. That should have taken years, protested the aquatic delegate. It should have been impossible, corrected the Voidling. Humans brought a fleet of atmospheric processors, industrial equipment meant for creating breathable atmospheres on uninhabited worlds. No one uses that as a weapon because it's slow, expensive, and completely impractical for warfare. Unless, added the Nexus Collective, you're fighting a species that's specifically adapted to a narrow atmospheric range, and you have the patience to commit resources to a long-term solution. Vex stopped pacing entirely. You're all missing the most important point. It's not just that humans are unpredictable, it's that they're unpredictable while somehow always being in the right place at the right time. The chamber fell silent again as each member contemplated this observation. Consider today's situation, the Archon said finally. The Zoraki have invaded Tau Ceti. By all logical analysis, this shouldn't concern humans. The system is officially unclaimed, the humans have no legal standing to intervene, and they have shown no previous interest in galactic politics. But, prompted the aquatic delegate, but the humans have been conducting routine maintenance on their deep space monitoring stations throughout this sector for the past 6 months. Maintenance that required moving significant amounts of equipment and personnel to previously unmanned outposts. The Dracanian nodded slowly. And their merchant vessels have been making unusual cargo runs to systems along the Zoraki border. Nothing threatening, nothing that violates any treaties, just routine commerce. 3 days ago, added the voidling. Human scientists published a paper on xenobiology that happened to include detailed information about Zoraki physical vulnerabilities. Purely academic research, of course. The Nexus Collective whirred softly before speaking. Correlation analysis suggests a 97.8% probability that these events are connected. However, no communication intercepts or intelligence gathering has revealed any coordinated human response to Zoraki expansion. Because there wouldn't be, Vex said with resignation. They don't coordinate the way other species do. They don't have grand strategies or master plans. They just appear when they're needed. As if summoned by his words, every communication system in the room activated simultaneously. The holographic display above the table shimmered and coalesced into an image of the Tau Ceti system. What they saw made every delegate lean forward in shock. The Zoraki invasion fleet, all 75 ships in perfect military formation, hung motionless in space around the third planet. But they weren't moving. They weren't firing. They weren't doing anything at all. Are they disabled? Asked the aquatic delegate nervously. Before anyone could answer, a new voice filled the chamber. It was distinctly human flat, unremarkable, carrying none of the harmonics or modulations that characterized other species' communications. Galactic Council, this is Captain Sarah Martinez of the UNSV Endeavour. We have a message for the Zoraki fleet currently occupying Tau Ceti 3. We thought you might want to observe. On the display, a single human ship materialized out of nowhere. Not from hyperspace, the characteristic energy signatures weren't present. It simply wasn't there one moment and was there the next. The ship was unremarkable by most standards. Medium-sized, clearly military, but not particularly imposing. What made every delegate stare was its position. It was sitting calmly between the Zoraki fleet and their target planet, apparently unconcerned about being outnumbered 75-1. Attention, Zoraki vessels. Captain Martinez's voice continued. You are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. You have 1 standard hour to comply. Vex's mandibles clicked frantically. 1 hour, 1 ship against their entire fleet. Have the humans gone completely insane? The Archon was monitoring multiple data streams, their 4 hands dancing across control surfaces. I'm detecting no weapon systems on the human ship. No shields? No armor plating above standard specifications. It appears to be a standard frigate-class vessel. Then how do they expect to enforce their ultimatum? Demanded the Dracanian. As if hearing the question, Captain Martinez provided an answer. To help you understand the seriousness of our position, we're sending you a small demonstration. Please observe Tau Ceti 7. All eyes turned to the display as it shifted to show the 7th planet in the system, a barren rock with no strategic value whatsoever. As they watched, space around the planet began to shimmer. What are we looking at? Asked the aquatic delegate nervously. The shimmer intensified, and suddenly the planet was gone. Not destroyed, not moved, simply gone. Where a planet had been seconds before, there was now empty space. The silence in the council chamber was absolute. Even the mechanical whirring of the Nexus Collective had stopped. The planet, the voidling whispered, where did it go? Captain Martinez answered as though she had heard the question. Tau Ceti 7 has been temporarily relocated to a parallel dimensional space. It will be returned unharmed once the Zoraki fleet withdraws. We thought this demonstration might be clearer than simply making threats. The Zoraki Admiral's response came almost immediately transmitted on all frequencies. This is impossible. Our scientists have been studying dimensional physics for millennia. Such technology doesn't exist. Apparently, Captain Martinez replied mildly, it does. 57 minutes remaining. The Nexus Collective was the first to break the stunned silence. Query? What did we just witness? Available data does not compute. You witnessed, the Archon said slowly, exactly what we've been trying to explain. Humans don't just think outside the box, they don't acknowledge that the box exists. Vex was staring at the empty space where a planet had been. How is this possible? We've monitored human technological development for decades. They're advanced, yes, but not beyond us. Their ships, their weapons, their industrial capacity. Nothing indicates they could simply make a planet disappear. That's because, the Dracanian said thoughtfully, we've been watching the wrong things. We've been monitoring their military, their factories, their traditional infrastructure. But humans? The Voidling completed, developed technology unlike any other species. We follow logical progressions building on established principles. Humans seem to just try things that shouldn't work until they do. The display updated to show the Zoraki fleet. The ships were clearly in distress, not from any attack, but from the sheer impossibility of what they'd witnessed. Several vessels were attempting to scan the space where the planet had been. Others were running diagnostics on their own sensors, convinced their equipment must be malfunctioning. 45 minutes remaining, Captain Martinez announced helpfully. The Zoraki Admiral transmitted again, his voice carrying clear desperation. You cannot simply make planets disappear. This violates every law of physics we understand. I'm sorry you feel that way, Captain Martinez replied, with what sounded like genuine sympathy. Perhaps you should have studied more theoretical applications. 38 minutes now. The aquatic delegate's tentacles were writhing with anxiety. Can they really just delete planets? How did they even discover such technology? The Archon's mental emanations carried a mixture of resignation and admiration. Knowing humans, they probably discovered it by accident, while trying to invent a better food processor. That's not funny, Vex snapped, though his nervous mandible clicking suggested otherwise. It wasn't meant to be, the Archon replied. I'm being entirely serious. Humans have a documented history of making groundbreaking discoveries while attempting to solve completely unrelated problems. They invented faster-than-light communication while trying to improve their internet networks. They developed matter replication while attempting to solve food distribution problems. They created artificial gravity while trying to design a better washing machine, added the Dracanian. I've read the scientific papers. Apparently, they wanted clothes to dry faster in space. The Nexus Collective processed this information and emitted confused electronic sounds. Error. Logic circuits cannot reconcile this pattern of technological development. That's exactly the point, the Voidling explained. Human logic follows paths that no AI or rational mind could predict. They don't research systematically, they just poke at things until something interesting happens. On the display, the Zoraki fleet had begun to show signs of organization. Ships were forming into defensive formations, charging weapons preparing for an assault on the single human vessel. 15 minutes remaining, Captain Martinez announced, apparently unconcerned by the hostile movements around her. I should mention that Tau Ceti 7 isn't the only celestial body we're prepared to relocate if necessary. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. If they could make one planet disappear, they could presumably make others disappear as well, including any planets the Zoraki were currently standing on. The Zoraki Admiral's voice cracked slightly. What do you want? What are your terms? Our terms are quite simple, Captain Martinez replied. Withdraw from the system. Immediately. That's all. And if we comply? Then you leave. We return Tau Ceti 7 to its proper place and everyone goes home. No harm done. The simplicity of it seemed to surprise the Zoraki command staff. That's all. No territorial concessions, no reparations, no demands for strategic resources. Nope, just leave. Vex's mandibles clicked rapidly. This is insane. They could leverage this demonstration into significant galactic concessions. Force the Zoraki into a client-state arrangement, demand exclusive access to their technologies. But they won't, the Archon interrupted. That's what makes humans so dangerous and so necessary. They don't want galactic domination. They don't want to rule over other species or accumulate vast territories. Then what do they want? Demanded the aquatic delegate. They want, the Dracanian said slowly, to be left alone. And they want everyone else to show the same courtesy to others that they themselves prefer. The display showed the Zaraki fleet beginning to break formation. The Admiral's voice came through one final time. We are withdrawing. Please return our planet. Already done, Captain Martinez replied cheerfully. Check your sensors. The display shifted back to show the 7th planet of Tau Ceti sitting in its proper orbit as though it had never left. Every scanner showed perfectly normal readings. Atmosphere, magnetic field, orbital mechanics, all exactly as they should be. How the Zaraki Admiral began, then seemed to think better of it. We are departing. Thank you for your consideration. As the Zaraki fleet began its jump to hyperspace, Captain Martinez addressed the Galactic Council directly again. Council members, I hope you enjoyed our little demonstration. We'll be returning to our regular patrol schedule now. Y'all have a nice day. The human ship shimmered and vanished, leaving empty space where it had been. For several minutes, no one in the council chamber spoke. Finally, the aquatic delegate broke the silence. And this is why the chair remains empty. This, confirmed the Archon, is exactly why the chair remains empty. Because the humans have made it clear that they don't need our permission, our alliance, or our approval. They're perfectly capable of handling galactic crises without us. Vex had slumped in his chair, his previous aggressiveness completely deflated. But if they're this powerful, why don't they take control? Why aren't they demanding submission from all of us? Because the Voidling explained patiently. Humans are possibly the only species in the galaxy that has power and doesn't want to use it for conquest. They're content to be left alone, and they'll take extraordinary measures to ensure that others are left alone as well. The Nexus Collective had been running continuous calculations since the planet's disappearance and return. Analysis complete. Probability of successfully challenging human intervention in matters they consider important, 0.001% recommendation. Extreme compliance with human preferences regarding galactic stability. The Dracanian nodded slowly. The empty chair serves as a reminder that there are forces in this galaxy that our councils and treaties cannot control or predict. The humans have chosen not to rule us, but they could anytime they wanted. And they've made it clear, added the Archon, that certain actions will provoke a response. Invading neutral territories, threatening established populations, destabilizing entire sectors. These things matter to humans, even if they're not directly involved. The aquatic delegate's tentacles had finally stopped writhing. So the chair isn't just a memorial or a symbol. It's a warning. It's respect, corrected the Voidling. Respect for a species that could dominate all of us, but chooses not to, and a warning not to force them to change their minds. 6 months later, the Council convened again for what many were calling the most important session in galactic history. The agenda contained only one item of proposal to formally invite Earth to join the Galactic Council as a full member with all rights and privileges thereof. The debate had been raging for days before the scheduled vote. Proponents argued that the humans' clear influence on galactic affairs meant they should have an official voice in council deliberations. Opponents worried that formally recognizing human authority might encourage more aggressive actions from other species seeking to challenge them. As the session began, every delegate noticed that the empty chair had been moved. Instead of its usual position at the circular table, it now sat directly opposite the Archon's position, a place of honor traditionally reserved for the most senior council member. Before we begin the formal proceedings, the Archon announced, I have an announcement to make. This morning we received a communication from Earth. Immediate silence fell over the chamber. In over 3 centuries of galactic contact, the humans had never initiated formal communication with the Council. The message was brief, the Archon continued. I'll read it in its entirety. They activated a holographic display above the table. The words appeared in the common galactic script, but below them was a translation into standard diplomatic language. To the Galactic Council, we have been monitoring your debates regarding our potential membership. We appreciate the consideration, but we must respectfully decline. We prefer our current arrangement. However, we would like to make a small request. In recognition of our ongoing commitment to galactic peace and stability, we ask that the empty chair at your table be officially designated as a permanent observation post for Earth. We promise to keep it warm for you. Sincerely, the people of Earth. Confused murmurs filled the chamber. The aquatic delegate raised a tentative appendage. Keep it warm for us. Before the Archon could respond, space in front of the empty chair shimmered. A human materialized not through transporters or dimensional gates, but simply stepped out of what appeared to be folded space itself. She was unremarkable in appearance. Medium height, dark hair, wearing what appeared to be a simple jumpsuit, with Earth symbols on the shoulders. She moved with casual confidence, as though materializing in the middle of the galaxy's most important governmental body was perfectly normal. "Hi there," she said, offering a friendly wave to the assembled delegates. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's new unofficial liaison. I'm here to make sure you all play nice with each other." Vex's mandibles clicked frantically. But the message said you declined membership." Dr. Chen took her seat in the formerly empty chair, adjusting it slightly for comfort. "We did. Full membership comes with lots of responsibilities we're not interested in. But someone needs to keep an eye on you folks. Make sure nobody does anything too stupid." "You're not a member," protested the Dracanian, "yet you're taking a council seat." "Yep," Dr. Chen replied cheerfully. "We're calling it observer status. We won't vote on your internal politics or trade disputes or territorial squabbles. But when someone starts getting ideas about invading their neighbors or destabilizing entire sectors," she let the sentence hang, but every delegate understood the implication. The Archon's mental emanations carried genuine curiosity. "And Earth's government has authorized this arrangement?" Dr. Chen's laugh was distinctly human. "Earth doesn't really have a government in the way you understand it. We've got lots of governments, actually. They spend most of their time arguing with each other. But they all agreed on this much: the galaxy needs someone watching the watchers." "How do you even get here?" asked the Voidling. "We've seen no ships, no transports." "Oh, that." Dr. Chen waved a hand dismissively. "We've been working on personal transportation solutions. Turns out if you fold space-time just right, you don't need a ship at all. Still working out some bugs last week, Jenkins ended up inside a tree on Proxima B. Took us hours to get him out." The casual way she discussed technology that should have been impossible wasn't lost on anyone in the room. "But why?" pressed the aquatic delegate. "Why take on this responsibility if you don't want power or territory or resources?" Dr. Chen looked around the table, meeting the eyes of each delegate in turn. "Because friends, somebody has to. You've all got your own interests, your own agendas, your own definitions of what's acceptable behavior. And that's fine, that's politics. But sometimes you need someone who doesn't have skin in the game to say, hey, maybe don't do that. And you think humans are qualified for this role?" Vex challenged. "Nope," Dr. Chen admitted readily. "We're probably the worst possible choice. We're illogical, unpredictable, and we have a tendency to poke things we should probably leave alone. But you know what we're good at." She gestured around the room. "We're good at noticing when people are about to do something really, really dumb, and we're really good at stopping them." The Nexus Collective whirred thoughtfully. Query: what authority do humans claim to enforce their observations? Dr. Chen's smile was gentle, but somehow unsettling. "The same authority we've always had. The authority of consequences. See, you all think in terms of laws and treaties and formal agreements. That's useful for maintaining order. But sometimes—" She paused, and for just a moment, every delegate felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's atmosphere. "Sometimes," she continued, "someone needs to be willing to make the hard choices that laws and treaties can't address. Someone has to be prepared to do what needs doing even when it's not pretty or legal or officially sanctioned. You're threatening us, Vex stated flatly. Not threatening, Dr. Chen corrected. Explaining. We don't make threats. Threats imply uncertainty about outcomes. We just prevent things. The Archon had been silent throughout this exchange, but now they spoke up. Dr. Chen, what are Earth's intentions regarding the current Andorian crisis? Dr. Chen's expression didn't change, but something in her posture shifted almost imperceptibly. What Andorian crisis? The one that began approximately 4 hours ago, when the hegemony of Vor declared the Andorian Trade Federation to be in violation of the Non-Aggression Pact and mobilized their 4th and 7th battle fleets. Dr. Chen sighed deeply. And here I was, hoping to ease into this job. I don't suppose anyone thought to send a message suggesting this was a bad idea. The Vor claimed justification under Article 15 of the Began the Voidling. I don't care about Article 15, Dr. Chen interrupted. I care about the part where a major military power is about to steamroll a peaceful trading confederation because they want control of the shipping routes. The Dracanian leaned forward. The Andorians were warned that their neutrality policies were untenable. They cannot expect to profit from all sides while making treaties with none. Dr. Chen appeared to be thinking. Then she stood up, walked to a blank section of wall, and simply stepped through it. She reappeared 3 seconds later carrying what looked like a handheld communication device. Hi, this is Sarah. Yeah, I need a Priority 2 intervention in the Andorian sector. For Fleets 4 and 7, Standard Containment Protocol. She paused, listening. No, just make them stop. Don't want to escalate unnecessarily. She closed the device and returned to her seat as though nothing had happened. What? Asked the aquatic delegate nervously. Was that? I told some people about a problem. They'll handle it. The room's main display activated without anyone touching any controls. It showed the Vor 4th Fleet, nearly 200 ships in perfect formation, approaching the outer edge of Andorian space. The image quality was so clear, it seemed as though they were viewing from just meters away. Then the fleet stopped. Not slowed, not altered course, stopped. Every ship simply ceased all forward motion, hanging motionless in space. What happened to them? Demanded Vex. Dr. Chen consulted her device briefly. Oh, apparently they've encountered some navigation difficulties. All their stellar cartography systems are showing the same error message. Please reconsider your current course of action. This system's warranty does not cover damages resulting from poor life choices. Should clear up once they decide to go home. The Archon was scanning through multiple data streams. The ships are undamaged. All crew are unharmed, but their computers won't let them go anywhere except back where they came from. Dr. Chen finished. And before you ask, no, they can't just switch to manual control. Turns out all their backup systems are showing the same helpful suggestion. This is outrageous. Vex stood abruptly. You cannot simply commandeer military fleet control systems. Who said anything about commandeering? Dr. Chen looked genuinely confused. We just sent a really compelling suggestion to their navigation computers. Technically, the ships are making their own decisions. The Nexus Collective emitted several confused electronic sounds before managing to speak. Clarification requested. How is this technologically possible? Oh, that's easy, Dr. Chen replied. We've been studying galactic computer systems for a while now. Y'all use remarkably similar base coding across species. Something about optimal efficiency paths or whatever. Makes it really easy to write universal patches. Universal patches. The Voidling's voice carried shock. You mean? Yep. Pretty much any computer system in galactic space can run our software updates whether they want to or not. Don't worry though, we only install the peace and goodwill patches. The display updated to show the Vor 7th Fleet receiving similar treatment. 200 more ships suddenly found themselves unable to proceed toward Andorian space their computers politely but firmly suggesting they reconsider their aggressive intentions. The Vor Fleet Admiral's voice crackled through the chamber's speakers. "Attention, unknown vessel. Identify yourself immediately. Explain what you have done to our navigation systems." Dr. Chen's response came not from her chair, but somehow from all around them simultaneously. "This is Earthship designation. Mind your own business. Your navigation systems are working perfectly. They're just being more helpful than usual." "This is an act of war," the Admiral sputtered. "Nope," Dr. Chen replied cheerfully. "This is pest control, and you're the pest." The aquatic delegate had been quietly calculating something on their personal device. They looked up with obvious shock. "Dr. Chen, the Vor fleets are over 3,000 light-years from here. How are your people responding so quickly?" "Who says my people are responding from somewhere else?" Dr. Chen asked innocently. The implications of that statement settled over the room like a heavy blanket. The Archon spoke first, their mental voice carefully controlled. "Dr. Chen, are you saying that human personnel are already positioned throughout the galaxy?" "I'm saying," Dr. Chen replied, "that it would be irresponsible of us not to be prepared for contingencies. Y'all have a tendency to have emergencies at inconvenient times." "How many?" Vex's voice was barely above a whisper. "How many what?" "How many human agents do you have positioned throughout galactic space?" Dr. Chen's smile was enigmatic. "Enough." The Vor Admiral's voice interrupted them again. "We demand immediate restoration of our navigational capabilities. This interference will not be tolerated." Dr. Chen consulted her device again. "Admiral Krex, right?" "Listen, Larry, can I call you Larry?" "No." "Okay, Admiral Krex. Here's the thing. Your ships are perfectly functional. Your weapons work. Your life support is fine. Your communications are clear. The only thing we've changed is making sure you can't hurt anyone today. You have no authority to—" "Authority is such a big word," Dr. Chen interrupted. "Let's talk about consequences instead. See, every time someone in this galaxy decides to start a war, it has ripple effects. Trade routes get disrupted. Refugees flee their homes. Neutral parties get dragged into conflicts they never wanted." She stood up again this time, walking to the center of the chamber. As she moved, holographic displays materialized around her, showing hundreds of different star systems. The Andorians run medical supply routes through 17 different sectors. She explained, manipulating the displays with casual gestures. They maintain communication relays that connect 46 different species. They provide neutral ground for diplomatic meetings between cultures that would otherwise never trust each other to meet. The displays showed shipping routes, communication networks, diplomatic schedules, all of them passing through or depending on Andorian space. "So when you decide to liberate their territory," Dr. Chen continued, "you're not just affecting the Andorians, you're messing with the entire galactic economy and communication infrastructure. And that Admiral Krex affects us. So you claim the right to interfere in sovereign government decisions." Dr. Chen laughed. "Oh, Admiral, you're thinking too small. We're not claiming the right to interfere. We're simply preventing you from causing problems we'd have to fix later. It's much more efficient this way." The Vor Admiral's frustration was evident. "When we return to Vor space, there will be consequences for this humiliation." "I doubt that," Dr. Chen replied mildly. "See, by the time you get home, you'll have received a full data package explaining exactly why attacking the Andorians was a really bad idea. Economic projections, stability analyses, long-term strategic assessments, the works. Your own analysts will confirm that this little adventure would have cost you far more than it could possibly gain." She paused, then added almost as an afterthought, "Plus, we might have accidentally improved your fleet's coffee dispensers while we were fixing your navigation systems. We noticed y'all were using some pretty terrible brewing algorithms." The bridge cameras on the Vor flagship showed the Admiral checking a nearby beverage dispenser, taking a sip and looking genuinely surprised. He tried to cover his reaction, but it was too late. "Don't think this changes anything." he declared, though his voice lacked its earlier conviction. Of course not, Dr. Chen agreed. You're still big, scary military folks doing important military things. You're just doing them in a direction that won't cause major galactic disruptions. The display showed both Vor fleets turning and heading back toward their home territory. Their movement was smooth and coordinated with no signs of the computer malfunctions they'd experienced earlier. And Larry? Sorry, Admiral Krex, one more thing. Next time you're considering a major military operation, maybe run it by us first. We have some really good strategic planning software we'd be happy to share. Might save everyone a lot of trouble. The communication channel closed, leaving the council chamber in silence. The aquatic delegate finally spoke up. Dr. Chen, how many times has this sort of thing happened? How often do humans intervene in galactic affairs? Dr. Chen returned to her seat, looking thoughtful. Well, let's see. This week alone, we've had to suggest course corrections to the Regelian Navy debug the Centauran trade computers after they accidentally declared war on their own colonies and help the Baton worlds figure out why their terraforming equipment kept producing purple rain. Purple rain isn't necessarily harmful, observed the voidling. It is when it's acidic, Dr. Chen replied cheerfully. Turns out someone had misplaced a decimal point in the atmospheric chemistry calculations. Could have dissolved half their infrastructure if we hadn't caught it. Vex had been unusually quiet throughout the recent exchanges. Now he leaned forward, his chitinous features reflecting deep thought. Dr. Chen, I need to ask something directly. Are humans monitoring all of us all the time? Dr. Chen's expression grew more serious. Vex, that's Counselor Vex, right? Look, we're not spying on anyone. We're not reading your personal communications or infiltrating your governments or anything creepy like that. She paused, then continued. But yeah, we keep an eye on the big picture. When someone starts mobilizing fleets or developing superweapons or destabilizing entire sectors, we notice. And when we think someone's about to do something really stupid, we offer suggestions. Forceful suggestions, the Dracanian pointed out. Sometimes, Dr. Chen admitted. See, here's the thing about us humans. We're really bad at minding our own business. When we see someone about to hurt themselves or others, it's like watching someone run full speed toward a cliff. Eventually, you have to say something. The Archon had been processing vast amounts of data throughout this conversation. Now they shared their findings with the room. I have been analyzing patterns from the past century of galactic conflicts. The data shows a correlation between regions with frequent human interest and significantly reduced war casualties. How significant? Asked the aquatic delegate. Regions within human suggestion range show 89% fewer casualties from armed conflicts than historically average. Furthermore, economic stability indices are 67% higher in areas of regular human intervention. Vex's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. So, humans aren't just preventing wars, they're preventing the worst parts of wars. That's a nice way to put it, Dr. Chen agreed. Look, we're not naive. We know conflict is sometimes unavoidable. Species disagree, resources are limited, misunderstandings happen. But there's a difference between a border skirmish and a full-scale planetary bombardment. She gestured, and new displays appeared showing various conflict zones throughout the galaxy. When the Outer Rim territories had their succession crisis 5 years ago, everyone expected massive casualties. Instead, it turned into a series of strongly worded diplomatic protests and very polite fleet maneuvers. Want to guess why? Human intervention, the Nexus Collective stated. Yep. We helped them set up communication protocols that prevented misunderstandings from escalating. We provided neutral observers for key negotiations, and when certain parties started eyeing their neighbors' planets a bit too hungrily, you made planets disappear again, the aquatic delegate asked nervously. Oh, nothing so dramatic. We just ensured that every time someone fired a weapon in anger, it would only shoot confetti. Took them a few days to figure out what was happening. By then, they'd had enough time to cool down and actually talk to each other. The Voidling's speaker crackled with what might have been amusement. You weaponized confetti. Dr. Martinez from our earlier demonstration is particularly proud of that one, Dr. Chen replied. She spent months working out how to modify weapons systems to fire festive paper products instead of actual ammunition. The engineering was surprisingly complex. But why? Vex asked, clearly struggling to understand. Why go to such elaborate lengths to avoid direct confrontation? Dr. Chen's expression grew thoughtful. Because counselor direct confrontation usually makes things worse. If we'd just blown up the Vor fleets today, what would have happened? The Andorians would have been saved from invasion, the Dracanian pointed out. Sure, but then what the Vor government would probably assume the Andorians had somehow acquired powerful new allies. They might have sought their own alliances, possibly with less stable factions. Or maybe they would have blamed other council species and started a wider conflict. She stood again, pacing as she spoke. Instead, the Vor fleets experienced mysterious technical difficulties that resolved themselves once they chose a peaceful path. No loss of face, no need for revenge, no escalation. They'll go home with a story about equipment malfunctions rather than military defeats. And really good coffee, the Voidling added. The coffee thing is just a bonus, Dr. Chen confirmed with a grin. See, the goal isn't to win. The goal is to make sure everyone gets to walk away and try again tomorrow with better information and calmer heads. The Archon had been unusually quiet, but now they shared another observation. Dr. Chen, our records indicate that human interventions have increased significantly in recent years. Are galactic conflicts becoming more frequent? Dr. Chen's smile faded slightly. Actually, they're becoming more dangerous. Better technology, more devastating weapons, wider-reaching consequences. When your average border dispute can now accidentally destabilize an entire solar system, the stakes are a lot higher. She returned to her seat, her posture more serious now. That's why we're here, really. That's why the empty chair matters. Not because we want power or control, but because someone needs to remember that actions have consequences, and those consequences often affect people who never chose to be involved. The room fell into contemplative silence. Finally, the aquatic delegate spoke up. Dr. Chen, what happens if the Galactic Council decides we don't want human observers? If we vote to revoke your unofficial status? Dr. Chen's smile returned. But it was different now, less warm, more enigmatic. Well, that would certainly be your right. You could vote on it, make it official, maybe even try to enforce it. But, prompted Vex. But we'd still be here, she replied simply. The chair would still be empty, the interventions would still happen, the suggestions would still be made. The only difference would be that you'd be less informed about our activities and less involved in our decisions. The implications settled over the room. The Nexus Collective was the first to speak. Query? Are you saying human oversight exists regardless of official sanction? I'm saying, Dr. Chen replied carefully, that this council didn't create our policy of galactic intervention, and this council can't stop it. You can choose to work with us or not, but human interest in galactic stability isn't really up for a vote. That's... Vex began, then stopped. That's terrifying. Or reassuring, suggested the Voidling, depending on your perspective. The Dracanian had been observing the exchange with growing understanding. This isn't really about the chair at all, is it? The empty seat, the observer status, even this conversation, it's all just formalities. Dr. Chen nodded approvingly. Now you're getting it. The reality is that humans have been influencing galactic affairs for decades. The only question is whether we do it with your knowledge and input, or whether we continue to work around you. You're offering us partnership in our own management, the Archon stated, their mental voice carrying a mixture of awe and irony. I prefer to think of it as quality assurance, Dr. Chen replied. You folks handle the day-to-day administration of galactic civilization. We just make sure things don't go catastrophically wrong. The aquatic delegate's tentacles were writhing again. But Dr. Chen, who watches the watchers? If humans have such power, what prevents you from becoming the very threat you claim to protect against? It was a fair question, and Dr. Chen took a moment to consider her answer. That's actually the hardest part. You're right to be concerned. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, as one of our philosophers once said. She gestured, and a new display appeared, this one showing what appeared to be Earth itself. But something was odd about the image. This is Earth, she explained, taken from our deep space observation post in the Tau CT system. Notice anything unusual? The voidling spoke first. There appear to be geometric structures in orbit that don't correspond to any known spacecraft designs. Very good. Those aren't ships. They're, well, think of them as safeguards. If Earth's human population ever poses a threat to galactic stability, those structures will activate. Stunned silence greeted this revelation. Finally, Vex managed to speak. You've placed weapons targeting your own planet. Not weapons, Dr. Chen corrected. Containment fields. If we ever go bad, if power corrupts us, the way you fear, those systems will isolate Earth from the rest of the galaxy. No ships in or out, no communications, no influence. A permanent quarantine? But your people would be trapped. The aquatic delegate protested. Better trapped than dangerous, Dr. Chen replied simply. It's the ultimate failsafe. As long as those systems exist untouched and automated, you know that human power is self-limiting. The Archon's mental presence was turbulent with complex emotions. Who controls these systems? No one, Dr. Chen answered. They're fully automated beyond human control once activated. The trigger conditions are hard-coded and can't be changed. If certain thresholds of galactic disruption are exceeded and traced back to human action, the systems activate automatically. What thresholds? Demanded Vex. Major planetary destruction, large-scale species, extinction, irreversible destruction of galactic civilization, that sort of thing. The big stuff that really matters. The Nexus Collective processed this information with audible confusion. Paradox detected. Systems designed to contain humans would require technology beyond human capabilities to implement. Error. Logic loop detected. Dr. Chen's grin was almost predatory. See, that's the beautiful thing about not following logical technological progression. We're perfectly capable of building things we don't fully understand. Those containment systems, we're not entirely sure how they work either. That's even more terrifying, Vex muttered. Or more reassuring, the voidling pointed out again. If even humans can't control or disable these safeguards, they truly are permanent. The discussion was interrupted by an alert tone from the chamber's communication system. The Archon's 4 hands moved across their controls, accepting the incoming transmission. Galactic Council, came a distressed voice. This is Administrator Kelth of the Meridian Station. We're experiencing a Class 7 reality fluctuation in sectors 14 through 18. Request immediate assistance. Before anyone from the council could respond, Dr. Chen was already pulling out her personal communicator. Hey, this is Sarah. Yeah, I'm hearing about Meridian. Reality fluctuation. Meters between 50 and 112 standard protocol. She listened for a moment, then looked up at the confused council members. Sorry, folks. Reality's gotten a bit wobbly in the Meridian sector. Someone was apparently trying to create a new type of FTL drive and accidentally punched holes between dimensions. Should have it sorted out in a few hours. Reality fluctuation? The aquatic delegate's voice reached a higher pitch. Oh, that happens more often than you'd think, Dr. Chen replied casually. Usually when someone tries to mess with fundamental constants they don't understand. Last month, the Canopus Research Collective accidentally made gravity flow sideways in their entire system. Took us 3 days to fix that one. The Archon was accessing their emergency protocols. Dr. Chen, reality fluctuations are beyond our technical capabilities. If you're suggesting humans can simply fix fundamental forces. Not easily, Dr. Chen admitted. But we've had practice. You'd be surprised how many species try to reinvent physics. Usually goes badly. A new voice came over the communications, clearly human, though speaking in galactic standard. Control this is Team 7. We've got the reality patches in place. Beginning fundamental constant stabilization now. Should have local physics back to normal in 47 minutes. Copy that, 7. Nice work. How's the coffee in that sector? Terrible. Apparently when gravity flows sideways, coffee makers don't work properly. Who knew? Dr. Chen closed her communicator and looked around the room at the stunned faces. Sorry about that. Occupational hazard of galactic peace maintenance. Reality fluctuations, entropy reversals, temporal loops. It's all part of the job. Temporal loops? Vex asked weakly. Don't get me started on those. Last year, the hegemony of different Vor than today's situation accidentally created a stable time loop that made the same day repeat for 3 months. Really brought down galactic productivity. The Dracanian leaned back in his chair. Dr. Chen, I'm beginning to understand why that chair was empty for so long. How's that? Because actually sitting in it means accepting responsibility for this level of cosmic maintenance. Dr. Chen nodded appreciatively. Now you're getting it. See, anyone can handle normal politics, trade negotiations, territorial disputes. But when someone's research project threatens to unravel the universe, or when a military experiment starts eating space-time, well, that's when things get interesting. And humans just fix these things. The Voidling's voice carried wonder. As a matter of course. Someone has to. Dr. Chen replied with a shrug. Most species are really good at using technology. Humans are really good at fixing technology, especially when it breaks in ways that shouldn't be possible. The aquatic delegate was furiously calculating on their device again. Dr. Chen, based on what you've shared today, humans are essentially managing reality itself throughout galactic civilization. How is this sustainable? How can you possibly monitor and maintain such vast systems? Dr. Chen's smile was enigmatic. Who says we're monitoring everything from a centralized location? Before anyone could ask for clarification, she stood and walked to the chamber's main viewing window. With a casual gesture, she touched the transparent aluminum surface. What had appeared to be a view of space outside the station shimmered and changed. Instead of stars and nebulae, the delegates now saw what appeared to be endless rows of people. Humans sitting at desks monitoring holographic displays working on incomprehensible devices. This is Monitoring Station Alpha, Dr. Chen explained. One of our smaller facilities. We've got about 12,000 people here keeping track of various galactic situations. 12,000? Vex stood abruptly staring at the view. Where is this facility? Oh, that's the fun part, Dr. Chen replied, manipulating the view to zoom out. The rows of workers were revealed to be inside a vast cylindrical structure that seemed to extend infinitely in both directions. Station Alpha is built inside a folded dimension within normal space. Technically, it's everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. That's impossible, the Nexus Collective stated flatly. Yep. Dr. Chen agreed cheerfully. We specialize in impossible. The station exists in what we call between space, outside normal dimensional boundaries, but still connected to regular reality through quantum entanglement networks. She gestured again, and the view changed to show other facilities. This is Station Beta, our equipment development center. Station Gamma handles temporal anomalies. Delta is our experimental physics lab. We've got Stations Epsilon through Omega handling various other aspects of galactic maintenance. How many people, the Archon asked slowly, are involved in this operation? Dr. Chen appeared to be counting in her head. Actively, maybe a couple 100 million. Passively, hard to say. A lot of our systems are automated, and we've got AIs handling routine situations. Plus, most humans back on Earth contribute somehow monitoring networks, developing solutions, analyzing data. The magnitude of what she was describing settled over the room like a heavy blanket. The Dracanian was the first to speak. "You're running a shadow galactic government." "No," Dr. Chen corrected gently. "We're running galactic tech support. Big difference." "I'm not sure there is a difference," Vex said quietly. Dr. Chen returned to her seat, but the view remained changed, showing the impossible expanse of human activity hidden from normal space. "Look," she said, her tone becoming more serious. "I get why this is intimidating. Trust me. We find it pretty overwhelming too. But here's the thing. It's not like we planned this." She gestured at the displays. 50 years ago, humans had just developed FTL travel. We were excited to meet other species, maybe trade some technologies, participate in galactic civilization. But then, prompted the aquatic delegate, then we discovered that every other species in the galaxy had developed along logical, predictable patterns. Sensible technology trees, reasonable social structures, understandable physics. And that was a problem. For us, yeah. See, humans are glitchy. Our technology doesn't work the way it should. Our solutions to problems involve breaking several laws of physics. Our social structures make no sense to anyone, including ourselves. She laughed, but there was something sad in it. We tried to fit in. Really, we did. But every time we tried to solve a problem the way other species did, our solutions ended up being completely different and usually impossible. "So you gave up trying to fit in?" the voidling asked. "We gave up trying to pretend we were normal," Dr. Chen replied. "Instead, we focused on what we were good at, fixing things that were already broken. And it turned out that galactic civilization has a lot of broken things." The Archon accessed their records, cross-referencing information at superhuman speed. "Dr. Chen, our data indicates that the frequency of impossible events requiring human intervention has increased significantly in recent decades." Dr. Chen nodded. "That's because other species are getting braver about pushing boundaries. Better technology, more ambition, bigger experiments. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with fundamental forces of the universe, bigger usually means more catastrophically wrong when it fails. And humans can handle these failures because..." Vex trailed off, clearly struggling with the concept. "Because we're already wrong," Dr. Chen replied simply. "When someone accidentally breaks reality, you need someone who doesn't operate according to reality's normal rules to fix it." A soft chime indicated another incoming communication. This time, the voice was excited rather than distressed. "Galactic Council and Human Observer. This is Research Director Zin of the Altair Collective. I'm pleased to report that our quantum tunneling experiments have successfully created a stable wormhole between our laboratory and the vegan system." Dr. Chen's expression immediately shifted to alarm. She grabbed her communicator. "Oh no, no, Sarah, to emergency response priority 1. We have an uncontrolled quantum tunnel in the Altair system. Immediate containment required." "What's wrong?" asked the aquatic delegate nervously. Dr. Chen was already standing, her casual demeanor completely gone. "They've created a stable wormhole without containment protocols? Do you have any idea what happens when space-time gets a permanent hole punched through it?" The research director's voice came through again, now sounding less confident. Observer Chen, we're noticing some unusual secondary effects. The gravitational field around the laboratory appears to be inverting." "Evacuate immediately," Dr. Chen ordered. "Do not under any circumstances attempt to close the wormhole yourselves. We're sending a containment team." The communication channel filled with sounds of confusion and rising panic. "The wormhole is expanding. It's already twice the size it was 5 minutes ago. Our calculations didn't account for." The transmission cut out abruptly. Dr. Chen was moving with swift efficiency, her hands dancing across her communicator in patterns no one else could follow. "Containment teams Alpha and Beta to Altair. Bring the heavy spatiotemporal equipment. Authorization code, Cosmic Cleanup Emergency Level 5. She paused, then added, "And someone please call Dr. Rodriguez. Tell her we need another universe patch. Small one, hopefully." Universe patch. The Voidling's voice had risen several octaves. Dr. Chen was already heading toward the wall she'd stepped through earlier. "Yeah, sometimes when someone makes a really bad hole in reality, we have to patch it from outside this universe entirely. Interdimensional contracting. It's complicated." She stopped at the wall, then looked back at the council members. "Sorry to run out on our first official meeting, but duty calls. This should be resolved within a few hours, assuming the Altarians haven't accidentally connected their system to a parallel universe where physics work differently." Parallel universe. The aquatic delegate's tentacles were writhing frantically. "Hopefully not," Dr. Chen replied. "Those are much harder to fix. Last time someone connected to a universe where entropy ran backward, we had to evacuate 3 star systems until we could sort it out." She stepped toward the wall, then paused. "Oh, one more thing. The lunch servers in the council cafeteria are having some issues. The food replicators are stuck producing everything at exactly 47 degrees Celsius, regardless of what you order. Thought someone should know." With that, she stepped through the wall and vanished. The council chamber remained silent for several long minutes. Finally, Vex spoke up. "They fix our lunch servers too." "Apparently," the Archon replied. The Dracanian rumbled thoughtfully. "I'm beginning to understand why that chair has remained empty for 3 centuries. Because no sane species would want this job," the Voidling agreed. The Nexus Collective, which had been running continuous analyses throughout the day, finally completed their calculations. "Council members, I have finished processing today's information." "And," prompted the aquatic delegate, "the humans aren't governing us. They're debugging us. Galactic civilization is apparently software running on the universe's hardware, and humans function as a combination of system administrators, tech support, and emergency repair service." The Archon's mental emanations carried a mixture of respect and exhaustion. "And they do all of this while claiming they just want to be left alone. That," said the Dracanian slowly, "might be the most human thing of all." 3 hours later, Dr. Chen reappeared exactly as she had left, stepping casually through the wall as though she'd never been gone. "Sorry about that," she said, retaking her seat. "Altair's situation is resolved. Turns out they had connected to a parallel universe, but luckily it was one where the laws of physics are only slightly different. We managed to close the connection and repair the space-time damage." "Just like that?" Vex asked weakly. "Well, it took some doing. We had to temporarily relocate 3 star systems to pocket dimensions while we worked, and there might be some residual gravitational waves for the next few weeks, but nothing major." The aquatic delegate had clearly been thinking during Dr. Chen's absence. "I have a question. If humans are capable of all this moving planets, patching reality, fixing the universe itself, why don't you simply prevent all conflicts? Why allow any wars or disputes at all?" Dr. Chen's expression grew thoughtful. That's actually a really important question. The thing is, we could probably do that. We could make war impossible, force everyone to get along, create some kind of galactic peace through human technology." "But you don't?" the Voidling observed. "But we don't," Dr. Chen confirmed. "Because that would be tyranny, wouldn't it? Even if we had the best intentions, even if the result was universal peace, removing choice from sentient beings is wrong." She stood and began pacing again. "We intervene when someone's about to do something catastrophically stupid or when reality itself is threatened. But smaller conflicts, territorial disputes, trade disagreements, that's just life. Sentient beings have to be free to make their own choices, even when those choices sometimes lead to conflict." "But where do you draw the line?" the Archon asked. "At what point does a conflict become worthy of human intervention?" "When it threatens galactic stability," Dr. Chen replied. "When it risks destroying something irreplaceable. when it's about to spiral into something much worse, or when someone asks for help and we can provide it without making things worse. The Zaraki invasion today certainly qualified, Vex pointed out. Definitely. They were about to destabilize a crucial trade hub, and the Andorians had no way to defend themselves effectively. Plus, the quantum crystals in that system are critical for galactic communications. We couldn't let that infrastructure be disrupted. The Nexus Collective whirred thoughtfully. Question: how do humans determine intervention priorities with limited resources? Dr. Chen's laugh interrupted them. Limited resources. Oh, friend, I think you're still not grasping the scale of what we're talking about. She gestured, and the wall display changed again. This time, it showed what appeared to be a map of the galaxy, but with countless tiny lights scattered throughout. Each of those lights represents a human facility, monitoring post, or response team. We're not working with limited resources. We're working with approximately unlimited resources. How is that possible? Demanded the Dracanian. Because we broke economics too, Dr. Chen replied cheerfully. Turns out, when you can manipulate matter at the quantum level, traditional resource scarcity becomes a non-issue. The only real limitations are energy and time, and we've got some interesting solutions for those as well. The aquatic delegate was staring at the display in amazement. There must be millions of those lights. Closer to tens of millions, actually. Most are automated systems, but they're all connected to human oversight networks. Think of it as a galactic nervous system with humans as the brain. And this entire system, the Archon said slowly, exists solely to maintain galactic stability. And to help people, Dr. Chen added. See, fixing reality breaks is the flashy part of the job. But most of what we do is much more mundane. Medical assistance during natural disasters, technical support for struggling colonies, research help for species developing new technologies safely. She gestured again, and the display zoomed in on one particular region. Last month, we helped the Tau whale species of Aquatica 7 when their spawning grounds were threatened by solar flare activity. We set up temporary magnetic shields during their breeding season.